August 22, 2024, 3:12 a.m. A doorbell security camera at 847 Oakmont Terrace in suburban Denver, Colorado, captures a woman exiting the front door of her home. Her name is Sienna Whitfield, 31 years old. She's wearing gray sweatpants, white tank top, slides on her feet, hair pulled back in a messy bun. She's carrying nothing. No phone, no keys, no wallet, no purse, just walking out of her house in the middle of the night with nothing in her hands. She steps onto the front porch, pauses, looks left, then right, like she's checking to see if anyone's watching, or maybe checking to see if someone's there waiting for her. The motion sensor porch light illuminates her clearly, high-definition footage. Her face is visible. Her expression appears disoriented, confused, like she's not fully awake, like she's sleepwalking. She walks down the 3 steps to the driveway. Slow steps, deliberate but unsteady. She stops at the end of the driveway, turns in a slow circle, looking around, searching for something or someone. Then she walks toward the street. No hesitation, just walking, like she knows where she's going, or like she's been instructed where to go. Now watch the neighbor's security camera from across the street. The timestamp reads 3:13 a.m. A dark sedan pulls up beside Sienna, slowly, quietly, headlights off, just the running lights visible. The car stops directly in front of her. The driver's door opens. A man steps out, tall, average build, dark clothing, baseball cap pulled low, face not clearly visible from this angle. He approaches Sienna. She does not run. She does not back away. She does not appear frightened. She appears to speak with him briefly, nodding, responding to something he's saying. The conversation lasts maybe 15 seconds. Then she gets into the passenger seat, willingly, no force, no resistance, no signs of distress. The man returns to the driver's seat, closes his door. The sedan pulls away, heading south on Oakmont Terrace. Slow, controlled, not speeding, not drawing attention. The timestamp reads 3:14 a.m. when the sedan disappears from camera view. That is the last time Sienna Whitfield is seen alive on any surveillance system. Within 4 hours, her husband would wake to find her gone. Within 8 hours, police would be reviewing this exact footage. And within 12 days, investigators would discover that the man in the sedan was not a stranger. He was someone Sienna had trusted, someone who had been planning this moment for weeks. Someone who had used his position of authority to gain access to her life, her home, her vulnerabilities. This was not a random encounter in the middle of the night. This was not a stranger abduction. This was the final step in a calculated plan that had been set in motion months earlier. A plan executed by someone who knew exactly how to manipulate her, how to control her, how to make her walk out of her house at 3 in the morning without her phone, without her keys, without telling anyone where she was going. This is the story of Sienna Whitfield, a woman who called 911 for help, who trusted the officer who responded, who believed he was protecting her, and who walked willingly to her death because she had no idea the person she trusted most was the person who wanted to harm her. Sienna Marie Whitfield was born Sienna Marie Torres on April 16, 1993, in Boulder, Colorado. She was the second of 3 daughters. Her father was an accountant. Her mother worked as a dental hygienist. They were a close family, middle class, stable, loving. Sienna was a bright student, excelled in school, participated in theater and debate, made friends easily. Teachers described her as outgoing, creative, and empathetic. She graduated from Boulder High School in 2011 with honors. She attended Colorado State University, studied psychology, graduated in 2015 with a bachelor's degree. She'd considered going to graduate school but decided to work first, gain experience, figure out exactly what she wanted to do. She got a job at a mental health clinic in Denver, working as a case manager for adults with severe mental illness. It was difficult work, emotionally draining, but Sienna was good at it. Clients trusted her. She had a gift for connecting with people who felt isolated and misunderstood. In 2017, Sienna met Derek Whitfield at a friend's wedding. Derek was 32, worked in IT consulting, quiet, stable, responsible. They started dating, got engaged in 2018, married in June 2019. They bought a house in Highlands Ranch, a suburb south of Denver, 847 Oakmont Terrace, 3-bedroom, nice neighborhood. Good schools for when they eventually had kids. They were building a life together. Derek worked from home most days. Sienna commuted to the clinic. They had a comfortable routine, dinners together, weekend hikes, visits with family, normal married life. In early 2024, Sienna started experiencing anxiety, not related to work, not related to her marriage, just general anxiety, trouble sleeping, racing thoughts. She'd had anxiety in college but managed it well. This felt different, more intense. She saw her doctor, got a prescription for anti-anxiety medication, started therapy, did everything she was supposed to do, but the anxiety persisted, got worse. By June 2024, Sienna was having panic attacks, sometimes at work, sometimes at home. She'd wake up in the middle of the night, heart racing, feeling like something terrible was going to happen. Derek was supportive, encouraged her to take time off work if she needed to. Her therapist increased her sessions, adjusted medications, but nothing seemed to help. Then in early July, things escalated. Sienna started receiving strange phone calls, no one on the other end, just silence. Then the call would disconnect. At first she ignored them. Wrong number, spam calls, nothing unusual. But they continued, multiple times a day, always from blocked or unknown numbers, always silence when she answered. Then the calls became more disturbing, someone breathing heavily on the other end. No words, just breathing, then disconnect. Sienna told Derek. He suggested blocking unknown numbers. She tried, but the calls continued from different numbers. Then she started noticing a car, a dark sedan, parked on her street. Not always the same spot, but there, regularly. She'd see it in the morning when she left for work, see it again when she came home. She mentioned it to Derek. He said it was probably a neighbor's car, or someone visiting the neighborhood. Nothing to worry about. But Sienna felt watched, followed. She couldn't shake the feeling. On July 18, 2024, Sienna called 911. She reported the suspicious calls and the car she'd been seeing. Said she felt like she was being followed, stalked. She was scared. The dispatcher was calm, professional, asked detailed questions, then said an officer would be sent to her residence to take a report. 30 minutes later, a patrol car arrived. Denver Police Department. The officer who stepped out was in his mid-30s. Professional demeanor. Name tag read, Officer Liam Brennan. He approached Sienna's door, rang the doorbell. Sienna answered, explained the situation, the calls, the car, the feeling of being watched. Officer Brennan took detailed notes, asked about her routine, where she worked, what time she left the house, what time she returned. He said he wanted to understand her schedule to better assess the threat. He walked around her property, checked windows, doors, recommended she install security cameras, motion sensor lights, keep doors and windows locked, standard safety advice. Then he gave her his business card, direct line, cell phone number written on the back. He told her to call him directly if she saw anything suspicious, if she felt unsafe, anytime, day or night. Sienna felt relieved. This officer was taking her seriously. He cared. He wanted to help. Over the next weeks, Officer Brennan checked in regularly. He'd drive by her house during his shift, stop to ask if everything was okay, if she'd seen the car again, if the calls had continued. The calls did continue, sporadically. Sienna reported each one to Officer Brennan. He documented everything, filed reports, told her they were working on tracing the numbers. Sienna began to trust him. He was consistent, reliable, present. He made her feel safe. What Sienna didn't know was that Officer Liam Brennan was the one making the calls. He was the one in the dark sedan watching her house. He was the one who had orchestrated everything from the beginning. Liam Brennan was born in 1989 in Lakewood, Colorado. His childhood was unremarkable by most standards. Father worked in construction. Mother was a stay-at-home parent. He had one younger sister. But Liam was different from other kids. Teachers noticed it early. He didn't connect with peers, didn't show empathy. He was intelligent, performed well academically, but something was off. There were incidents, small things. A classmate's pet went missing. Liam was seen near the house. Nothing proven. A girl reported someone following her home from school. Liam lived in that direction. No evidence. He graduated high school in 2007, applied to police academy in 2009, was accepted, graduated in 2010. His instructors noted he was disciplined, followed procedures, excelled in physical training, but some felt he lacked genuine concern for public service. One evaluation mentioned he seemed more interested in control than protection. Still, he graduated, was hired by Denver Police Department in 2011, worked patrol, standard assignments, traffic stops, responding to calls, basic police work. He was adequate, not exceptional, not problematic, just adequate. Showed up, did his job, didn't cause issues. His fellow officers found him distant. He didn't socialize, didn't join them for drinks, didn't participate in department events, kept to himself. But distance isn't a crime. Introversion isn't grounds for discipline. He did his work. That's what mattered. Liam never married, no long-term relationships. He lived alone in an apartment in Littleton. No close friends, no social life that anyone knew about. What no one knew was that Liam had a pattern, a specific type of victim he was drawn to. Women in their late 20s to early 30s, professional, independent, women who lived in suburban areas, women who had some vulnerability, anxiety, trauma, something that made them seek protection. He'd been perfecting his method for years. He'd select a target, research her, learn her routine, then create a situation that required police intervention, make her feel unsafe, make her call for help. Then he'd respond, be her protector, build trust, create dependency. And when the time was right, when she trusted him completely, he'd take her. Sienna Whitfield was not his first victim, she was his third. In 2019, a woman named Rebecca Santos disappeared. 29 years old, lived in Aurora, Colorado. She'd reported suspicious activity around her home weeks before vanishing. An officer had responded to her calls, taken reports, provided reassurance. She disappeared on September 12, 2019, last seen leaving her house early in the morning. Her car was found abandoned near a park. No Rebecca, no evidence. Case went cold. In 2021, another woman vanished. Melissa Ford, 31, lived in Centennial. She'd also reported feeling stalked. An officer had been assigned to her case, checked on her regularly, made her feel safe. She disappeared on November 7, 2021, last seen on her home security camera walking out of her house at 2 a.m., wearing pajamas, no shoes, no phone, just walked out and never came back. Her car remained in the driveway. Case went cold. Both investigations found no connection between the cases. Different precincts, different investigators, different officers assigned, no obvious pattern. Except both women had called 911 reporting suspicious activity before they disappeared. Both had been reassured by responding officers. Both had vanished in the middle of the night, walking out of their homes with nothing. And both cases had Officer Liam Brennan's name in the reports. He'd been one of several officers who'd responded to calls in those areas. Nothing suspicious, just doing his job. No one connected the dots until Sienna. July through August 2024, Liam executed his plan with Sienna. He made the calls, drove by her house in the unmarked sedan, created the threat, then responded as her protector. He learned everything about her work schedule, her therapy appointments, her medication routine, her relationship with her husband. He learned that Sienna had trouble sleeping, that she took medication for anxiety, that she sometimes woke up disoriented in the middle of the night, and he formulated his plan. On August 21st, Liam called Sienna around 10 p.m., his usual check-in, asked if everything was okay, if she'd seen anything suspicious. Sienna said no, everything was quiet. She was about to go to bed. Liam told her to keep her phone nearby, call if she needed anything. Standard reassurance. What Sienna didn't know was that Liam had been inside her house earlier that day, while she and Derek were at work. He'd used his police knowledge to bypass their basic security system, had entered through the back door, spent 20 minutes inside. He'd located Sienna's medication, her anti-anxiety prescription, replaced several pills with a sedative he'd obtained through means that would later be traced back to evidence room theft. The pills looked identical. Sienna wouldn't notice. That night, Sienna took her medication before bed. Same routine as always. She fell asleep around 11 p.m. But the sedative was stronger than her usual medication. Combined with her existing prescription, it created a state of deep sleep followed by disorientation upon waking. At 3:10 a.m., Sienna's phone rang, Liam calling, but she didn't hear it, too deeply asleep. He called again, still no answer. Then he triggered her home security system, a specific sensor, one that would create a low-level alarm, not loud enough to wake Derek, who slept heavily, but enough to rouse Sienna, who was already in a medicated, disoriented state. Sienna woke confused, heard the alarm, thought something was wrong, grabbed her phone, saw missed calls from Officer Brennan. She tried to call him back. He answered immediately. "Sienna, where are you? Are you safe? I got an alert from your security system." Sienna explained she was home. The alarm was going off. She didn't know why. Liam's voice was urgent, concerned. "Sienna, I need you to stay calm. I think someone triggered your system. I'm 2 minutes away. I need you to come outside. Meet me at the street. Don't wake Derek. I don't want to cause a scene if it's a false alarm. Just come outside. I'll check the perimeter." Sienna, disoriented and trusting, agreed. She didn't question it. Officer Brennan had been protecting her for weeks. He knew what he was doing. She walked downstairs, opened the front door, stepped outside. The doorbell camera captured all of this. Sienna looking confused, looking around, walking down the driveway. And across the street, Liam watched from his sedan. Unmarked vehicle, dark, inconspicuous. He waited until she reached the street. Then he pulled up, opened his door, approached her. Sienna saw him, recognized him immediately. Officer Brennan, her protector. He told her he'd checked the perimeter. Everything looked secure. Probably a sensor malfunction. He'd reset it from his patrol system. She could go back inside. But then he said something that made her hesitate. He said he'd noticed something. Her back door looked unsecured. He wanted to check inside, make sure no one had entered. Sienna said Derek was asleep inside. Maybe they should just call tomorrow. But Liam insisted, said it would only take a minute, said he'd feel better knowing she was completely safe. The neighbor's camera captured Sienna getting into Liam's vehicle. Willingly, trusting. She thought they were going to drive around to the back of her house, check the door. Then she'd go back inside. She had no idea she was never going back inside. Liam drove away, south on Oakmont Terrace, away from Sienna's house, away from safety. By the time Sienna realized they weren't going back to her house, it was too late. Liam had locked the doors, activated child safety locks. She couldn't escape. She asked where they were going. Liam's response was calm, clinical. "We're going somewhere you'll be safe." Sienna panicked, tried to open the door, couldn't. Reached for her phone, realized she'd left it inside, no way to call for help. Liam drove for 40 minutes, to a property he owned in rural Jefferson County. Isolated, no neighbors, no witnesses. He'd purchased the property 2 years earlier under an LLC, not his personal name. Used it as what he called his workshop, a place where he could work without interruption. What he actually used it for was holding victims. The property had a basement, soundproofed, reinforced, impossible to escape from. Before we continue with how Sienna's disappearance was investigated and how Liam was finally caught, if cases like this matter to you, make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell. We expose predators who hide behind badges. We show how investigations bring justice. We honor victims by telling their stories. Hit like if you think this deserves attention. Comment your thoughts. Because this is real, and what investigators found proves that even the most careful predators leave traces. August 22nd, 2024, 7:15 a.m. Derek Whitfield woke up, reached for Sienna. She wasn't there. Unusual, but not alarming. Sometimes she woke early, couldn't sleep. Went downstairs. Derek got up, checked the house. Sienna wasn't downstairs, wasn't in the bathroom, wasn't anywhere. Her car was in the driveway. Her phone was on the nightstand. Her keys were on the kitchen counter. Her purse was in the closet. Derek called her phone. It rang in their bedroom. She hadn't taken it. He checked the security system, saw the alert from 3:10 a.m., sensor triggered, then nothing. He reviewed the doorbell camera footage, saw Sienna walk out at 3:12 a.m., saw her get into a car at 3:14 a.m., saw the car drive away. Derek called 911 immediately. His wife had walked out of their house in the middle of the night and gotten into a stranger's car. She hadn't come back. Police responded, took Derek's report, reviewed the footage. The detective assigned, Detective Rachel Martinez, immediately recognized this pattern. Woman leaves house in the middle of the night. No phone, no keys. Gets into a vehicle willingly. Doesn't return. It matched 2 other cases, Rebecca Santos in 2019, Melissa Ford in 2021. Detective Martinez pulled those files, started comparing. The The similarities were striking. All three women had reported suspicious activity before disappearing. All three had police involvement in those reports. All three vanished in the middle of the night. All three left their homes willingly with no belongings. Martinez requested all police reports filed by or about Sienna Whitfield, found multiple reports, all handled by Officer Liam Brennan. She pulled Brennan's file, cross-referenced with the other two cases, found his name in both Rebecca Santos and Melissa Ford's case files. He'd responded to calls in those areas, been peripherally involved in both investigations. One officer, three missing women, all with similar patterns. Martinez obtained a warrant, phone records, financial records, property records, GPS data from Brennan's patrol vehicle. The evidence was damning. Brennan's patrol vehicle GPS showed he'd been near Rebecca Santos's home multiple times in the weeks before her disappearance, near Melissa Ford's home in 2021, near Sienna's home throughout July and August 2024. His phone records showed calls to Sienna's number, including one at 3:10 a.m. on August 22nd, right before she walked out of her house. His financial records showed purchase of a property in Jefferson County, rural, isolated, purchased through an LLC that traced back to him through business filings. Detective Martinez assembled a team. FBI was brought in. This was potentially a serial case involving a law enforcement officer. On August 27th, a search warrant was executed on Liam Brennan's apartment and the Jefferson County property. At the apartment, investigators found files, physical files, on Rebecca Santos, Melissa Ford, Sienna Whitfield, photos, schedules, notes about their routines, evidence of extensive surveillance. They found burner phones, used to make the anonymous calls to his victims. They found police equipment that should have been in evidence storage, including sedatives from the evidence room. At the Jefferson County property, they found the basement, and what they found there made even veteran investigators physically ill. Sienna Whitfield, alive, barely, chained in the basement, dehydrated, traumatized, but alive. She'd been there for 5 days. Liam had kept her alive, fed her minimally, provided water, but isolated her completely. Psychological torture combined with captivity. In other areas of the basement, investigators found evidence of previous victims. DNA from Rebecca Santos. Personal items belonging to Melissa Ford. Proof that both women had been held in this same location before they were killed. The bodies of Rebecca and Melissa were found buried on the property. Shallow graves in the woods behind the house. Liam Brennan was arrested at Denver Police Department headquarters where he'd reported for his shift that morning. Taken into custody without incident. He showed no emotion during arrest, no surprise, no resistance, just compliance. In interrogation, Liam confessed, not out of remorse, not to help investigators, just because the evidence was overwhelming and he knew there was no point denying it. He described his method, how he selected victims, how he created the threat to make them call police, how he positioned himself as their protector, how he built trust, how he manipulated them into leaving their homes in the middle of the night. He described killing Rebecca in 2019, Melissa in 2021, said he'd planned to kill Sienna but hadn't yet because he wasn't finished with her. The confession was recorded, detailed, clinical, no emotion, no remorse, just facts delivered like a police report. Sienna was hospitalized, treated for dehydration and malnutrition. Psychological evaluation found severe trauma, PTSD, but she was alive. She survived. Derek never left her side. Her family flew in immediately. She had support, care, people who loved her. The trial began in March 2025. Liam was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of kidnapping, multiple counts of stalking, abuse of authority, evidence tampering, and breaking and entering. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence. Security footage, phone records, GPS data, the files from his apartment, forensic evidence from the basement, the bodies of Rebecca and Melissa. Sienna testified, described how Liam had manipulated her, made her feel safe, convinced her to trust him, then used that trust to abduct her. The defense attempted to argue mental illness, said Liam had a personality disorder, wasn't fully responsible for his actions. The prosecution countered with evidence of planning, premeditation, years of selecting and stalking victims, purchasing property specifically for this purpose. This wasn't mental illness. This was calculated predation. The jury deliberated for 8 hours. April 17, 2025. Verdicts returned. Liam Brennan, guilty on all counts. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. The judge's statement was unsparing. Mr. Brennan, you were a police officer. You swore an oath to protect and serve. Instead, you used your position to hunt and kill vulnerable women. Rebecca Santos called 911 because she felt unsafe. You made her feel that way. Then you became her protector. Then you murdered her. Melissa Ford did the same, trusted you, and died because of that trust. Sienna Whitfield survived only because we found her in time. You had already begun the same pattern you'd used with the others. You manipulated these women, exploited their vulnerabilities, used your badge as a weapon. The court sentences you to life without possibility of parole for each count of first-degree murder. Sentences to run consecutively. You will never be free. You will die in prison. Liam showed no reaction, sat perfectly still, accepted the sentence without emotion. He's currently incarcerated at Colorado State Penitentiary, administrative segregation. Even in prison, former cops are targets. Denver Police Department conducted a thorough internal investigation. How had Liam operated for so long without detection? The investigation found failures at multiple levels. Evidence room security was inadequate, allowed Liam to access and remove items without proper documentation. GPS monitoring of patrol vehicles was inconsistent. No one reviewed the data unless there was a specific complaint. Psychological evaluations were only conducted at hiring. No follow-up assessments. The department implemented reforms. Mandatory psychological evaluations every 2 years. Enhanced evidence room security. Regular GPS audits. Body cameras required at all times during interactions with the public. Changes that came too late for Rebecca Santos and Melissa Ford, but changes that might prevent future predators from using the badge as a cover. Sienna Whitfield underwent extensive therapy, PTSD treatment. She took a leave from work, focused on healing. With Derek's support and her family's love, she slowly rebuilt her life. She returned to work part-time in 2026, focused on her own recovery while helping others. She became an advocate, speaking publicly about her experience, working with organizations that support survivors of violence, pushing for reforms in law enforcement oversight and accountability. She testified before Colorado legislature, advocating for laws requiring more frequent psychological evaluations for officers, enhanced protections for people reporting stalking, better tracking systems for repeat reports from the same individual. Because Rebecca had called police multiple times before disappearing. So had Melissa. So had Sienna. But no system existed to flag when the same person was repeatedly reporting threats. No one noticed the pattern until it was too late. Sienna's advocacy led to what's now called Sienna's Law in Colorado, requiring police departments to track and flag repeat reports from the same individual, ensuring someone reviews those cases for patterns, ensuring victims aren't ignored just because their fears seem unfounded. Rebecca Santos and Melissa Ford didn't survive to see these changes. Their families testified at the trial, described the daughters they'd lost, the futures stolen from them. Rebecca's mother spoke directly to Liam during sentencing. "You took my daughter. She trusted you. She believed you were keeping her safe, and you murdered her. I hope you never know peace. I hope every day in prison reminds you of what you did." Melissa's sister spoke too. "My sister called 911 because she was scared. The system that was supposed to protect her sent a predator instead. You destroyed our family. We'll never be whole again." Their words were powerful, heartbreaking. A reminder that Liam's crimes didn't just end 2 lives. They destroyed families, communities. Trust in the system meant to protect people. If this case affected you, hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment. Share your thoughts on police accountability and victim protection. This channel exposes predators regardless of position, honors victims by telling their stories, shows how justice works even when systems fail. Hit like if you believe this deserves attention. Share if you think people need to understand that badges don't guarantee safety. Liam Brennan used his position to hunt women, used his authority to manipulate them, used their trust to destroy them. He's in prison now. We'll die there. But Rebecca Santos and Melissa Ford are still gone. And Sienna Whitfield lives with trauma that will never fully heal. Remember their names: Rebecca Santos, Melissa Ford, Sienna Whitfield. Women who did everything right, called for help, trusted the system, and paid dearly for that trust. Thank you for watching, for caring, for demanding accountability from those who swear to protect us. Liam Brennan was supposed to serve and protect. Instead, he stalked and killed. Justice was served, but two families still grieve, and one survivor still fights to reclaim her life. This was their story. This is why we demand accountability. This is why we never stop fighting for justice. Sienna walked out of her house at 3:12 a.m. because she trusted Officer Brennan, because he'd spent weeks building that trust, because she believed he was protecting her. She survived, but she'll carry the scars forever. Rebecca and Melissa didn't survive. Their trust was fatal. Remember them. Remember that authority must be questioned, that trust must be earned, that predators wear many faces. Sometimes they wear badges. Stay vigilant, trust your instincts. And remember, these aren't just stories. These are real people, real victims, real survivors. Liam Brennan will die in prison, that's justice. But Rebecca and Melissa are still gone, and Sienna still fights to feel safe. This was their story. This is why accountability matters. This is why we remember.